Do you want to be a CA? Do you want to be a CFO? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, this one is for you. Today, we have a CASA blessing the mic, an MBA, author, and founder of the Unconventional CA, a venture builder specializing in SMMEs, scaling them for sustainable impact. He is also a 2019 SAICA 35 under 35 finalist, and he's been nominated for Innovative Entrepreneur of the Year for 2024 at the prestigious Global Entrepreneurship Festival. His name is Hiten Keshave. Hiten and I chat about everything business and entrepreneurship, along with his journey going from CA to CFO of a tech startup to today being a thriving and inspiring entrepreneur. We also chat about why skill stacking is the best path to the top of your field, the power of perception in your life, why your why is so crucial in business, tips on becoming a CFO of a startup, how to get people to buy into you and pass the interview, what bases you need to cover to get funding as a startup, how to find an angel investor, 5 fundamentals of business, and you guessed it, more. This one is jam-packed, this one is value-packed, and I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA. Another fast one. Quick. If you're an entrepreneur, an aspiring entrepreneur, or are interested in everything business and entrepreneurship, UCA, the Unconventional CA, has just launched their new Entrepreneurs Hub. It's packed with tools, templates, and content from experts in entrepreneurship. Guys doing the dance, practitioners. And you can actually have access to all of it via the link in the show notes for free. Again, packed with valuable resources and insights for your learning, growth, and success. In any case, onto the episode. I'm actually going to drop you in the conversation, mid-conversation, just to give you some context. Hiten and I were chatting a little bit about how aspiring CAs will tend to get into the profession with certain assumptions, with certain preconceptions. One of them being, and he's going to start Hiten himself, is that those aspiring CAs who
choose the commerce route and take it from there too, because it's a finance and people think that you're going to make money from it.
Yeah, and that's a huge, I think, misconception around the whole finance thing. They think that, of course, it's a pillar of business. Yeah. You have to understand money. That's one of the things you cannot not understand, but it doesn't mean you're going to get money.
Yeah. Exactly. You can have all the degrees and that it's how you utilize your practical knowledge more importantly, and the real life experiences that are out there that get you the outcomes you want. Most importantly, I am a typical example of it. Studied and got the CA, but completely messed up.
This is going to be amazing, I won't lie. Sure, this is going to be fantastic. But let's warm up. Beaches or mountains?
Beaches.
Why? You're in Joburg. You're all the way inland.
I come from the coast originally.
Okay.
So I think
East London.
Yeah, the sounds of the sea are very tranquilizing and relaxing. So I enjoy that. Not to say I don't enjoy the mountains. I love it as well. But if you had to ask me beaches or safari, I'll tell you safari.
Okay.
Now that I'm in Gauteng.
The safari bug hasn't bit me. I think I need to make money first.
As you get older, I think it changes, and you'll find, especially if you're wanting to switch off and relax, the safari bug is very healing for your soul and your mind. If you're wanting to just like de-stress, nature, getting out there, grounding yourself, and being at one, and seeing that there's a bigger life to the busyness that we get here in Johannesburg. Here you're surrounded by bricks and mortar, cars always 24/7. And out in nature, it's just animals, and literally you can wake up in the safari and next day there's an elephant or giraffe or lion outside your place, and you're like, oh, whoa. That experience that you have, it just shows what we take for granted also. And there's a lot that you can learn also from a nature perspective on how animals survive. Like how a lion's hunt from a pack perspective, and that you can take out into business also. Those are simple things that are applied in wildlife that we as humans can apply in day-to-day activities.
That was really interesting, the way you took from a seemingly foreign environment a lesson that can serve you so much. And that's what I see the value of pursuing your interests being. Because when you pursue your curiosity, not specifically necessarily what you're studying, you're starting to go into unfamiliar spaces and things that are typically unrelated, right? But there's this idea that was posed by Stephen Bartlett. He's a marketing dude. He runs another podcast, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He poses this idea of skill stacking, right? And he postulates that the best in the world are not the people who are the best in the thing. They are the people who are the top 10% in two seemingly unrelated but complementary skills. And so it's not necessarily the best boxer who just has the best jab that wins the championship, but it's an example is this guy, something Lomachenko. He's a Russian or Ukrainian boxer who did dance and ballet in his upbringing. So that was part of his slippery step, and his strength was that he wasn't just a boxer. He also did dance.
And we chose this how we undermine how you can take ballet and the effects of that into boxing as an example, because you have to be swift and quick on your feet and agile.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet we think a muscular punch is what's going to win you the battle.
You think?
Yet it's you look at Muhammad Ali's analogy. It's like fly like a butterfly, you sting like a bee. Yeah, and that's exactly the similar principles that one should always be mindful of in their journey. Is to your point around Stephen Bartlett, your ability to continuously want to learn and self-develop is critical to your success in all facets of life, whether it's in business or personally, money, financials, health, wealth, whatever it is that you're chasing in terms of relationships, maybe your spiritual side that you're looking at on that in family. It could be. It's how you choose to deal with each situation mindfully, and your willingness to be vulnerable to learn something new that matters most on that end. And if you have that approach from a early stage, like I have to compliment you and commend you for at such a young age wanting to be with other individuals that are already out there in the field and industry. It shows what your future is probably going to look like, knowing what most individuals are bound to when they're at the younger stages in varsity. You're secluded to your group of friends. And then you only take reality seriously once you break out of studies. And that's when you decide to learn. But it's a choice that we all may have available at ourselves. It's our ability to be mindful on how we choose to address that. And that is often affected by who we associate ourselves with. So if you had to assess your circle of friends and the people that are probably most influential to you, versus a distant group in your class, and guys that are potentially just partying predominantly and trying to just get through studies and just make it, right? It's probably likely to be very different on that end. Why? And that you'll see will relay down in 10 years' time in life.
Yo, I didn't even think about how like so I don't really compete. I don't even think about things as competitions. I kind of just do what I believe I can do best. But when I think I do believe the choices that I'm making today to choose, like, developing myself, I can already see. So there's this one picture that I saw, like 1 degree, 1 degree difference in trajectory will, in 10 years' time, be completely different places.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's the simplest way to look at it is, as human beings, you overestimate what you can achieve in a year and you underestimate what you can achieve in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's always the matter of instant gratification, because our brains are so wired to be reactive and want things instantly that we forget that there's a journey that we have to evolve and get through things. I reflect back in my childhood while I was in varsity, and the reason I brought this up was I saw a group of guys that got into entrepreneurship and I studied, and I didn't. And I know a few of those guys and where they've gotten to today. And it was because those early choices that they made helped embed and get them to where they wanted to be. But that also is something that adults who have kids need to be mindful of when they bring their children up. Who you associate your children with from a societal perspective and how that influences them from a behavioral perspective has a fundamental element or aspect to determine how successful they are going to be going forward. And that is very critical to embed going forward, in whatever it is you do in life. And I look at it, again, going back from a self-reflection perspective. I grew up in a very poor community. My parents had very little. They started from scratch. My grandmother just got off the ship and started, and she lost her husband within 3 years of coming into South Africa. So my father and his siblings had no elderly figure to help guide and be there. They had to find their ways in life themselves. And so as we grew up being kids, we weren't taught that you can be brave and associate. It was always like live in a fear or mindset of limitation. There's so much that can be achieved because everyone else gets it by the draw of luck or because of the color of the skin or whatever else it was. It was only when I moved to Johannesburg that I saw, hey, life is different here. In a bigger society, people are all equal here. It's what you choose to make.
It's not about age. It's not about race. People think it's about race.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
It's about the opportunities that you choose to capitalize on. It's about your ability to socialize and be influential with people in that regard. And so building soft skills are very, very critical.
We have to get into that. Let me get my pen quickly.
Yeah, building soft skills are very essential to your own success when it comes to the networks that you build. And that is very critical from a relationship building perspective, just with people, both from a business perspective and from a personal perspective on that spectrum. And so how you choose to think and behave ultimately determines your results and outcomes that you get in life. And so a guy, Joey Dispenza, puts it very simply that thoughts are the language of your brain and feelings are the language of your body. And how you think and feel creates your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. So everything boils down to your belief system ultimately, and how you choose to wire your thoughts and your behaviors from a feelings perspective that will result in the outcomes that you take.
And there was this really interesting idea that literally on the way here when I was listening to a podcast was posed by this guy, Alex Omozi. He's another internet entrepreneur.
Sales guy.
Yeah, big sales guy. And I think he was on a podcast with Chris Williamson, who's another podcaster, similar to Stephen Bartlett. It said that, and it's such a useful framing, such a useful philosophy. If you can look at life as a place where nothing changes. No one changes. The government's not going to change. The economy's not going to change. Those people aren't going to change. Nothing's going to change. Only you can change. Then you have a much more powerful position to be in. Alex Omozi, he added onto this by saying, when you change, the world changes because your perception of the world changes.
Yeah, everything starts with you. You have it in your own control. Ultimately, it's like yin and yang. If you look at the glass of water that you have,
Yes.
you can either look at it as half full or half empty.
It's about a tenth right now.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but in essence, those are the two perceptions, and that's really what two different people are about. Some person will see it as half empty and will be like, what's missing in this? Other person will say, hey, listen, I've got a half glass full. I'm happy, grateful that at least I can drink something now, and from that may make something else happen. So that's where the limit, it's like, do you have a mindset that is limiting you, or do you have a mindset that's empowering you to take action and go towards your future goals that you're trying to strive towards? And that's critical in anything that you want to achieve, not only from a business perspective, from a personal perspective. And this is why when we work with SMMEs at UCA, we take a very holistic approach to entrepreneur development, where we focus on the personal development of the individual as well as their business. Because what we find is, if you don't work on the decision making and the root cause behaviors within the entrepreneur, you're not going to address that in their business. Because what they choose to do from a personal perspective will then impact them from a business perspective.
That's so. I think that's applicable everywhere. The thing is, like, we love to think about things in silos, but that's not the path to fulfillment. Because you're not just doing this for money.
Yeah.
Like, everyone who thinks that they do things for money, it's like, dude, no, man. You're doing it for the things money can buy.
Exactly that. And to your point, like if you get into business, many people, I ask them, why are you in business? And people will ask me, they tell me that they're in business just to make money. You'll see 9 times out of 10 fail. And the reason behind that is when the dark cloud comes in business, because especially in the early stages, business is a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
If money was the only driving factor and you had no purpose or intent beyond that, you'll easily give up and throw in the towel, because you'll say, okay, what's my next quick win that I can actually go for? I was a culprit of that. Like, my first journey that I went into after qualifying as a CA was to get into business, and my sole objective was just to make money, not realizing that there were fundamental skills that I needed to embed and learn as an individual and had to be mindful of in the industry I was operating in that would allow me to be successful. And so when the going got tough, I had to put a reality check and literally just shut down, liquidate everything and start from scratch.
Wise decision, eh? Very wise.
So you have to make tough decisions when it comes to business itself. You have to take a reality check, but most importantly, learning from the experience you went through is critical, because if you can take those lessons learned and allow them to elevate you in your next journey, it'll show you what not to do next and what way you can improve and be better on. I believe everything in life happens to you for a reason, and you're not there for a mistake. You are where you are for a specific reason that the universe has put that there, and it's up to you to embed and embrace what you've gone through so that you can become a better person at the end of the day. So that the reason I share that story is Unconventional CA was born out of that journey that I went through itself. Because our purpose from a business perspective and all of my staff is we're here to really empower and help SMMEs evolve and build sustainable and scalable businesses and unlock their true potential. Because we as founders, both myself and my business partner Jamil, have gone through our own hardships, and we don't want entrepreneurs to go through that hardships that we went through, initial journeys. And if you surround yourself with the right people who have been down that pathway, you learn quickly what to avoid and what to replicate, so that you can then implement that immediately and put that into practice. And I can tell you now, if you're wanting to start a business, 9 times out of 10, if you have the right market, if you have the right relationships, you just need to implement these softer practical elements that you can learn from a coach or a mentor, and you'll succeed.
Sure, that's huge too, and like as a mental shift, because I think like everyone wants to, and I think when you think about entrepreneurship, you don't think formula, but there is a formula. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you know what? Before we carry on, let's go back. Right? That's what we do on the road to CA. We go back in time to where the whole CA thing started. So actually, just to go back in your journey so that we can chronicle how you've come to be, successful today and what your CA journey's been. Let's start with where you're from and onto how you got to CA.
So I grew up in the Eastern Cape, in a small town now called Konzi, but King Williamstown previously.
King Williams.
Yeah, so that's where I grew up. I studied at Dale College. So did all my primary and tertiary high school education there. Then I went to Rhodes, where I did my tertiary education. So the CA part actually came by accident. I actually wanted to study medicine and get into the medical field because I had this want to just help people. And that unfortunately didn't plan out. So my mom,
fortunately.
At the time, unfortunately, now in hindsight, fortunately. And everything for a reason, like I mentioned. So my mom said, listen, you like your numbers, you're good at your numbers, just go at it and give it a bash and take it from there. And so I went through the mull of the mines at varsity, and then I did my articles at PwC in East London.
In East London, okay.
But in that journey of my studies, tertiary education, I wasn't the smartest or the brightest guy on the block. I messed around. I just really wanted to get past and get my results, and that's it. Just satisfy my parents. And get my CA and then get into business, because I wasn't interested in studying and being this fame brand from a CA perspective or an executive on that end. And why? My dad started a business when I was probably around 3 or 4 years old, and I saw what he had done in growing and building that from a corner shop, normal Indian corner shop that you find nowadays, and evolved that into a factory that supplied and wholesaled rice and basic food commodities.
Sure.
In and around that area.
He's still running it now?
No, he sold the business.
Okay.
But he built a good brand that over time that many people in the lower LSM market became familiar with and trusted in terms of the quality of the products that he provided, and that encouraged me because it gave that business gave life to 5 kids. Educated them, got them through tertiary education.
5.
5.
No, he must have had enough. Hey, more than enough.
Yeah, and so that in itself was, we were the first to have formal education in our entire family, and so that made me ponder to say, hey, my dad's done this. What am I going to leave now when I start my life, and what legacy do I leave behind? And so I said, let me get into business and see what I can do in terms of creating wealth, but with the objective of really giving back to society and leaving a legacy in the world on that end. It didn't pan out in the first instance when I got into business. So I was in renewable energy for about 3 years.
So you'd finished your CA by that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
2012, I had finished my CA, and then I got into the renewable energy sector. So in hindsight, there were a few things that I had done wrong. Firstly, my networking and my relationship building were not at the best. And in parallel to that, most importantly was, I had this intention and desire to always be a successful entrepreneur. But my behaviors and my habits were not that of a successful entrepreneur. And so the fundamentals of, discipline, routine, how you choose to use your time, who you choose to invest your time with, the people you choose to associate yourself with, weren't matching and aligning to what my goals were on the other spectrum, and so I naturally got obscure results on that end. And so the blame, I could easily have put the blame to say that the industry was very relationship driven, and it's a very corporate tight business, and so
over-regulated, blah blah blah
blah blah. You can put all of those excuses there. It's not going to change anything. There were also parts that I was at fault with, and I take that more seriously than the other part, because there's certain things that are in your control and there's certain things that are out of your control. As long as you know you've given it your best shot that are out of your control, the rest is history. But the parts that were in my control, I didn't give my best shot. And so I'm only to blame for that. But that saying that helps and has helped me now to understand better what to do. When going into a new venture and being deliberate about how I spend my time and who I choose to spend my time with on that end. So that after that venture I had decided to liquidate and sell off everything. So I lost all my savings from articles perspective.
So you saved through articles.
Yeah.
Got to the end of articles, and then
exactly.
Sure.
Through the lesson learned.
And how many years was that? So 2012 you qualified, and then how long did you run the business?
It took about 2.5 years. So
2.5 years.
I had shut it down in June 2015.
Okay.
So
2.5.
Yeah. So I started 2013, and then June 2015, I just shut it all out. And then I literally relocated to Johannesburg. A close friend of mine that I had done my articles and studied at varsity with said to me, listen, you'll house me for a period of time until I find my feet.
That's a friend.
That a close friend.
That's
still
a
to
friend.
date, very, very close friend of mine, and someone that you can rely on at any point in time. So I'm very grateful for that part there, because had it not been for him, I wouldn't have been able to find my feet here in Johannesburg. And so, as I just put my name out there to try and find an opportunity, it was purely through a referral from someone that led me to being a CFO at a tech startup.
Sure.
And I always wanted to be in the startup environment, because I knew had I got into corporate, even though I tried, I wouldn't be happy, because I'm an individual that likes to take control of things and be in charge of my decisions and take responsibility for it. So I need some freedom in that end versus being roped in and told what to do. And so I decided to take the startup opportunity, and that 6 years that I had spent in that startup was the foundations that helped me understand what it actually took to run a successful business and grow and scale.
Okay, first there was the first failure, which is for me. So I failed my third year, right, last year. And for me, that was my first glaring failure. Before I was like just cruising through things, didn't really have direction. Look, I did well in school because the environments also were conducive for my success. But it was when I failed that I realized, okay, this is what life is about. How am I going to bounce back?
Yeah. True, to your point. It's not how it's when you get hit. It's very important that you land with your face facing up. Because then it's how you get up that matters most at the end of the day. And so that, to your point, I fell down, but I got up, and the opportunity came to me, and I capitalized on that opportunity fully. I used to work late hours, but I made sure.
Were you upskilling in that time as well? Your CFO skills? Because I think so if someone's in school now, so you were a CA of 2.5 years.
Yeah.
You can become a CFO of a startup once you're qualified. You really can.
And so, to get to that position, right? If anyone wants to get to that, what I would advise them is you have to strongly sell yourself, believe in your abilities and your capabilities, showcase that you have this ability to think beyond just crunching numbers, and that you've got some entrepreneurial flair to you, and that you have an ability to think beyond just finances, and you can see the broader spectrum from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective, from an operational perspective.
We're not really trained in that, hey?
Yeah, and that's exactly, if you're wanting to get in those elements, get your hands dirty, get involved, or showcase that you've got some track record from an early stage that you've been involved in business, so that people can buy into you. Because at that early stage, especially at those top tier levels, people don't buy into you, your skills and your capabilities. They buy into you as an individual and what you are selling at the end of the day. And that's most important in anything that you do, whether it's from a career perspective or from a business perspective.
Like I think I forgot where I heard this idea, but if you think about an interview, if you get the interview, the first one, it means that all the technical you've passed.
Yeah.
People, like, they're not just curious, especially big corporations. They're not just curious. I wonder how, I wonder what Hiten thinks. He's got this kind of sort of okay-ish. He's not finished with the CA, but I guess we'll give him the. They're not just curious. They know what they're there for. And so when you get the interview, now it's about who are you?
Yes, exactly that.
Now it's about, are you likable?
Yeah.
Can you sell yourself, is what you said.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's about selling yourself. And as you grow and evolve in your career over time, and if you're wanting to get into bigger corporations itself, that relationships that you build and that track record and credibility you build for yourself is what will buy you the opportunity. It's not about the marketing on that end. Yes, now I do think, though, social media influence plays a big role. And from a thought leadership perspective, it's important to position yourself from early stage onset in the market for what you're trying to achieve. And I did that from the onset in my tech startup days, because I wanted to be an influential figure to younger youth, so that they could avoid all those hurdles and pitfalls that I had gone through. And it sometimes is contrary to shareholders' beliefs and what they are wanting, especially if you work for someone. But you have to be very clear in your mind what you're trying to achieve and the goals you're trying to set for yourself. And in hindsight, I look at it today from a UCA perspective. A lot of our business and clientele that we get, it's because of the rapport and the individual credibility that we've bought in the market as founders. And people have seen what we've been able to provide to others out of good faith and goodwill, without any intention of being commercially transactional in things.
How did the Unconventional CA start? Because now it's a business. It's a fully fledged business, not just a personal brand. I know it started off, but walk us through the whole story.
So it started in 2019 while I was still in the tech startup. So in 2019, I got shortlisted into the SAICA Top 35 Under 35 nominations. And so I was a finalist there. And then I got into, Topco had this Top 40 Under 40 finalist event as well.
Topco,
so Topco Media.
Okay.
They run this empowerment conferences. They run a variety of them. And so in 2019, and they found me and they nominated me and got me into the finalists also for the Top 40 Under 40. And there was one other event, I think it was Sanlam that had one. And so in that year, I just looked and reflected back because at one point I had lost everything financially and had to start from scratch.
And that was 4 years on.
Yeah, 4 years
plus
on.
Minus.
Plus minus 4 years on. And then I got all these call-ups to say, hey, listen, we want to showcase you on stage now.
Sure.
And in that, I just said to myself, how is it that I can share this lesson with others and make it clear to others that being a CA, it doesn't have to just be about numbers and being a number cruncher and a bean counter, for a better word. There's a humanitarian part of us that we all have, and how do I bring that part out so that other young CAs can also take that brave step that they want to, instead of being confined by society rules and cultural norms, for a better description, when it comes to what they want to achieve in life. And so I started that whole Unconventional CA as a a personal brand just to really mentor youth and SMMEs from access to market perspective, growing their businesses, access to funding, procurement opportunities, and then most importantly, the experiences that I'd gone through. And that was 2019. COVID had hit in 2020. We had then gone into lockdown, and there was a prime need to support entrepreneurs in that period, especially small business owners. And so we decided just to run workshops. A group of us as friends said, let's just run workshops to supporting SMMEs through this period. Let's try and set up some online presence to give them access to market and opportunities within our network. And let's just see how we can help them through this difficult period financially. And I did this through a few corporates at no cost. I just said, hey, I've got some time on my hands.
You partnered with them.
Yeah, I got time on my hands. I'm happy to help these SMMEs just to see what can be done for them. And in that, we got a breakthrough opportunity with Momentum Metropolitan Health and UKZN to run a pilot program for student entrepreneurs in Durban. And at that time, my business partner and I, we met at an event, at a SAICA event, and he was already in the ESD industry.
Okay.
And so I asked him, listen, what's his personal aspirations? Where does he want to go? Is he still keen to work for someone, or does he want to join forces with me and make this baby a reality together? And he was keen on it. So we had then joined forces and we have formalized UCA to become a venture building entity in 2022. And that's how the journey went from a personal brand to essentially a business. And in that spectrum, in 2022, we landed 3 clients in the space of probably about 6 months.
And how long do you service the clients? Is it like a quarterly thing, or is it a monthly thing?
So depending on every client, it varies, but most of the times our entrepreneur development programs run for a period of at least 12 months.
Okay.
Depending on the type of program that we run. So our programs are very bespoke and unique to each business's needs. So we don't run a blanket approach towards entrepreneur development. In light of that, we've also built a monitoring and evaluation platform called Ember 360. So for guys that are listening out there, just be on the lookout as to what our platform does from an SMME perspective, where it helps diagnose where you are in your journey from a personal perspective and a business perspective, and then from a funding readiness element and what needs to be done. And then
can you walk us through? I'm so curious. What are some of those funding readiness criteria?
So most importantly, from a funding readiness perspective, is do you have the right compliance environment from a financial perspective, right?
Okay, so like a registered entity,
tax
registration,
tax clearance certificates, your PAYE, etc.
Okay.
Compliance is very critical. But then most importantly, how viable is your commercial model, right? Do you have existing clients that are paying you on a regular basis that can sustain the business? Is there demand for your product or service? Very, very critical. And if you can showcase that with some form of agreements in place, that would be good. Depending on your business model, though, again, it's not always possible to do that, because in a B2C environment,
there's no contracts.
Yeah, there's no contracts
typically.
So what you have to then be mindful of is how much skin in the game are you able to put in order to showcase to a funding partner, listen, I'm not asking for everything for free, but for example, looking for 500,000 Rand, I have half of that, I need the other half to be funded. So that then shows that you have skin in the game to say, I'm willing to meet halfway on this, I just need the other half closed and funded for. So those are the critical elements that, at a high level you have to consider when it comes to funding readiness and being clear on it. I think depending on which stage of your business it is at, it plays a different role and a different approach.
Yeah.
Like pre-C, if you're at ideation stage and that, to get funding for your business is tough.
It's tough.
Because you have to validate whether there's a market demand for what you're providing on that end. Yeah. And so I always say to individuals, try and bootstrap that part of it, or alternatively find an angel investor who believes in your idea and can help guide you through it. on that end.
How do you find an angel investor? I've always been curious.
So there's different networks out there that you can find angel investors through. Here in Johannesburg, there's a network called Josie's Angel.
Oh, wow.
So go get into that circle, and you'll get a few angel investors there. There's another one called Jasiri's Angel.
How do you spell that?
Jasiri.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's about getting into all these startup events as well, so that you can meet people who might know others in that spectrum. The Angel Investor Network, obviously in the Western Cape, is very big, especially in Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
It's a big group. So you want to try and get into all of these type of
Spaces.
to expose yourself to potentially the right people. But again, from an angel investment perspective, it's 9
tough.
times out of 10, people buy into you. And again, I would say it's the relationships that you have to build with the individual, who knows that if he gives you the money, you're not just going to cock it up and make a balls up on it. It's money that's going to go well spent towards this initial phase, because it's such a high risk.
And I think it's also a lot about building yourself.
Yeah.
Like, are you the type of person who you would trust R1 million with?
Yeah.
I think that's a good question. And I think also to not underestimate yourself. I think some people, even as a student, have the competence and the professionalism to be trustworthy. But I think a good proxy is, would you give yourself R1 million?
Good question to ask. In the same context, right? Would you give yourself R1 million? If you had the R1 million and you were sitting on the other side of the table, would you as an investor give yourself R1 million? That's the way to ask it.
Yeah. That's the better.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're going to want to take risks
Exactly.
as the person with nothing.
Yeah.
The investor doesn't want to lose.
Exactly.
You know, I was also curious now. So a lot of us as aspiring CAs get into this to get into business, right? Because we're not sure. I don't know what I want to do. So I know this can get me into business. My dad said this is great for business. My mom said. From now, you are after all of it. From your perspective, have we the tools, or to what extent do we have those tools? Do we have those tools in order for us to be equipped in business?
So I think if you're looking for tools, what I would recommend all entrepreneurs do is all entrepreneurs can sign up to our hub at Unconventional CA, the unconventionalca.org. You'll see that we've launched a hub that has a whole set of content from a templates perspective that can help you set up your business.
That's you, student entrepreneur. Listen, dial in.
Yeah, so everything from a strategy, HR, financials, operations, how to pitch, business plans.
To zoom out, like, what are the pillars of business in your view?
When you say pillars of business, maybe be a little bit more clear.
So, like, I think of the Porter's, the Porter's value chain analysis, where you have your firm infrastructure, you have your HR, you have your tech development, you have your procurement, and then you have your inbound logistics. Like, what is the framework that UCA analyzes businesses through?
So when we analyze businesses on our platform, Ember 360,
Yes.
it looks at a variety of aspects from a strategy perspective.
Strategy.
So we look at your vision, your annual plans and objectives, or all of those critical elements from a strategic perspective, right? Then from a marketing perspective, how solid and sound your business is on that end in terms of presence out there, especially from a customer acquisition perspective. Then we look at the commercial side of things from a financial perspective, pricing, your revenue models. Are they retainer based, or is it once-off ad hoc revenue? Do you have the right financial budgeting and forecasting and projections in place? Have you done your cash flow planning elements, all of those? Internal control. So you mentioned logistics and processes.
Ops.
Yeah. Do you have your operations solidly sound and correct? And from automation perspective, is things manual, or can you automate and streamline those old school manual ways? And then HR is very critical. Looking at things from a people management perspective, if you have people in your business, are you adequately putting in the right processes that enable your people to deliver the outcomes that you want and create an environment that allows them to be wanting to come to work, so it doesn't feel like a burden to them. And then lastly but not least, the technical capabilities from a business perspective, especially if you're in a industry such as, for example, farming or chemicals or manufacturing. There's a lot of technical capabilities that you have to be mindful of.
Would you pair that with compliance? Because I feel like those are typically very highly regulated spaces.
Yeah. It's a compliance matter that you have to. So, for example, if you want to get into the mining industry, you've got to get all your ISOs in place, and you've got to have all the technical certifications in order. And most entrepreneurs are not familiar with that. So those are the fundamentals that we look at, right? And why we created the hub in parallel to that is where SMMEs say, listen, we don't want or we don't have the budget to onboard you as our coach to help guide and build us through this. We created the hub as a content pool for entrepreneurs to get the templates themselves, to help them navigate these challenges and resolve it. Until at that point in time, they have the financials to say, okay, listen, we want to appoint you. Can you come through and guide and be our business coach to help scale and build this and implement it adequately for us? And the hub is not just a pool of content from a templates perspective. It's got knowledge base from experts around the world who share insights into different topics from sales, marketing, HR, operations, etc. So you get practical experience from guys who've been there that you can then learn from and implement in your business.
Yeah. So that will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
Cool. It's in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes. You can just chat to Kudzai.
Cool.
She'll give you all the login credentials and that, and you can send it to all the guys to sign up. It's absolutely free for them.
Fantastic. So if you're a student entrepreneur, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, that's a great hub to learn, to grow, to develop yourself.
Yeah.
10, we don't have time. So we have to get to this. If you could go back, if you could see into a crystal ball to talking to Hiten back in first year, second year, maybe even high school, what would you tell him?
Make sure you take your personal development seriously and the people you choose to associate yourself with absolutely seriously, that your behaviors and your actions align with the outcomes you're trying to achieve in life.
Take yourself seriously. I think it personal development all comes down to, are you willing to look at yourself and truly see someone worth solving?
Yeah.
You got to solve yourself.
Yeah. And are you serious about who you are and those goals that you're wanting to achieve? That would be my simplest advice. I wouldn't change anything else. The experiences I've gone through have allowed me and gotten me to who I am today. If it weren't for those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today. But if I changed just a few things from a personal development perspective and my being mindful of my thoughts and my actions that I relayed versus my objectives that I wanted to achieve, I could have fast-tracked this probably a lot more quicker.
Take yourself seriously. You can do it. Take yourself seriously. Guys, if you're not already, please follow this. This was an absolute pleasure. I wish there was like a good hour. I think we were an hour too short, I think. I really think. But I hope it does not end, but that it begins in CASA. Thank you, Tim.
Cool, man. Alunga. Pleasure, man.